Hello everyone. Welcome to the Presentation Skills webinar. I would like to say a few things about the actual webinar today and its aim, which relates really to improving participants' presentation skills that can be used for attending online academic conferences. And the webinar will provide content and formatting guidelines, tools and tips that can be followed for preparing and delivering an engaging and vivid online conference presentation. Also, during the actual webinar, we will provide guidelines for both oral and poster presentations, but the main focus will be, of course, on the presentation of both oral and poster presentations online. Also, by the completion of this webinar, we hope that you will be able to create an informative and interesting presentation that will allow you not only to present your research, but to also receive useful feedback in order to positively enhance your work. So today's webinar will be delivered by Dr. Eleni Pasha and Ms. Eleni Stylianou. And to be precise, Dr. Eleni Pasha is an architect engineer and currently works with UNICAP as the research officer. She specializes in community building and engagement, content transformation through critical, participatory, and experiential learning methods. And she has received her PhD from the Faculty of Social Sciences at the University of Sheffield, and has been collaborating with academic and non-governmental organizations as a researcher, architect, educator, and project management. And her involvement in previous positions revolved around aspects related to spatial practice and theory, pedagogy, and feminist praxis. On the other hand, Ms. Eleni Stylianou is a graduate of the Department of English Language and Culture from the University of Cyprus, and is currently the Doctoral Studies Officer for UNICAP. And following her studies in Cyprus, she acquired an MA in Gender Studies with a main focus on gender and militarization in Cyprus from the University of East Anglia. I would like to remind everyone to type your questions under the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen during the webinar. And please also note that at different times, some links will be given to you through the Q&A section. As the links will be used for voting purposes, the presenters will basically explain later on how this will actually work. So I believe without any further ado, we are able to start. So Mrs. Eleni Stylianou, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Papadopoulou, for your introduction. Everybody, welcome to today's webinar. Thank you, of course, for being with us today. As mentioned, the theme of today's webinar is presentation skills, with our focus being on online presenting. The structure of today's presentation is gonna be as follows. We're gonna start with some guidelines on how to structure your content when it comes to your conference presentation. We're then gonna move on with guidelines and tools on how to format your conference presentation. And we're gonna close our webinar with some practical tips when it comes to your presentations. So to start off, what you should all keep in mind is that for a successful presentation, what is needed is a combination between the structure, the content, and of course the design and the format, which will be discussed in more detail in the following slides. Starting off with the structure of the content of your presentation. So when you're structuring your presentation, you can keep in mind these basic guidelines. You're gonna start your presentation with your cover slide or your poster. Then you're gonna have your table of contents. You're gonna move on with your introduction and your background. Then you have your main body, your conclusion, and of course your references. In your cover slide or your poster title section, what you should always include is the title of your study as well as the student name, the supervisor name, the campus, the program, and the email of the first author. Moving on, we have the table of contents, which in other words is the outline of your presentations. This is your chance to show to your audience what is coming and for them to know what to expect in the rest of the presentation. In your introduction and background, you can have your problem statement and your purpose statement. And of course, then you're going to have your main body. In your main body, you can include a variety of stuff like your theoretical and conceptual framework, your research questions, your research methodology and design, including your population sample, materials and instruments, and your study procedures. You can also include your data collection and analysis, your findings, your implications, and recommendations for practical application of future research. And of course, at the end, you're going to have your conclusion that can be a summary of what has been presented until now. When you are structuring your presentation, what you should always keep in mind is good academic practice. You should never forget that at the end of the presentation, you need to have a slide or slides, depending, with your references. And of course, you need to always remember to use your in-text citations when needed in your slides. As you can see, we have here an example of an in-text citation. So in this part of the presentation, let me just mention that this, first of all, is a suggestion. It's by no means a rule. And it concerns the students that are currently enrolled in stages, in dissertation stages. The first suggestion that we always make for students enrolling in dissertation stages is that you can always talk with your supervisor. You can turn to your supervisor for guidance, for tips. But on our part, we have some suggestions. Again, this is not a rule, this is suggestions. If you are a student enrolled in either dissertation stage 1 or 2, you can always present your research proposal and your literature review, or in case you have a pilot study, you can present and elaborate on that. On the other hand, if you are a student who's currently enrolled in dissertation stage 3 and 4, you can present on your result, your discussion, and your conclusions. Keep in mind that you always have the choice of presenting one fraction of your results or one part of the study. If, let's say, you decide to present on one hypothesis or on one research question from your whole research, then of course you can do that and elaborate on that. So when it comes to preparing your presentation, you want to make sure that your audience can easily read your presentation and that your presentation is also visually interesting. You should use fonts like Arial or Times New Roman, and always keep in mind that the minimum font size should be 18, so it's easily readable from your audience. You can also always incorporate arrows, circles, and colors to, let's say, emphasize some of the key points. The most important thing is that you have to keep in mind consistency when creating your presentation. For example, if you decide to use Times New Roman, let's say, you should use Times New Roman throughout the whole of your presentation. Also, you should use a variety of tools such as tables, charts, and graphs in order to present your data. As we can see here, we have an example of a chart. This specific example was chosen because it's a good combination between preferable and not so preferable components. As you can see, the chart is accompanied by the title, by explanatory captions. It's easily readable, which is something we're looking for when deciding what kind of tools we're going to use. Nevertheless, the resolution of the picture is not so great. So let's say this is not the ideal choice for a chart. Whereas in this example, as you can see, the picture is of a great resolution. You can clearly see the picture. You can clearly read what is included in the picture. So always keep in mind to choose a good resolution for the picture. Also keep in mind that you need a balance between your colors and your images and your text. You don't want to overdo it. Don't want your slides to be too busy. You just want them to be interesting, eye-catching, and to get the point across. When it comes to the delivery of the presentation, some of the tips we're suggesting for you is, first of all, do not skip your slides. If you're gonna use information on your slides, it needs to be on the information discussed. Also very important, prove with your presentations. You don't want to have spelling mistakes on your slides. And of course, always try to use keywords when creating your slides. Another very important aspect when it comes to presenting is for you to keep an eye contact, let's say, with your audience. Usually when it comes to face-to-face presentations, there are some guidelines, let's say, or some tips, tricks you can use. Usually they recommend looking at a familiar face or looking at people that are smiling at you. But when it comes to online presenting, which is one of our main focus today, it all comes down to the adjustment of your camera. So adjust your camera accordingly so you can see your audience and your audience can see you. As you can see here, as we said, you need to avoid using full sentences. You don't want your slides to be overcrowded with words and for people to take up time to read your slides. As you can see in this example, the presenter decided to include full sentences, whereas in the next example we're gonna see, with the same theme to present, the presenter decided to go with the bullet points and the keywords, which make the slide not so busy and allows the audience to easily read and get the point faster. So now I'm going to give the floor to my colleague, Dr. Eleni Pasha. Dr. Pasha.
Thank you, Ms. Stylianou. So we're going to give you a little bit of a context in relation to a poster presentation, which it differs from an oral presentation in regards to the fact that it presents research information in the form of a paper poster. As you can see the picture, there are printed posters on boards, which are exhibited during a poster session in an event, usually a scientific conference, an academic event. And the process follows what happens also in our presentation, where the poster abstracts are collected. And when they are selected, they illustrate and they focus on illustrating in progress research usually, such as the most important sections of methods and outcomes of in progress research. When it comes to face-to-face poster presentation, as you can see in the picture, this consists of a research poster that is placed into a portable board, as you can see. The presenter or the researcher answers the questions posed by passing colleagues. The size of the printed poster varies according to the requirement of the event. And it can be built using a software, usually PowerPoint or other, and they are printed in a large format printer, which means that they do not usually have the A4 or A3 normal sizes, paper sizes. We're going to talk a little bit about the digital poster presentation, which differs from the printed poster presentation in the fact that it will have obviously a different size because we have the size of a screen. And also it does not include content because it actually, what it is to be said, it's all there. However, all the tips that Ms. Stylianou mentioned earlier apply for the poster presentation. You can see there is a clear title as well as the sections are clearly written. There's a balance between the text and the images used. The images are clear. They include captions explaining the graph, and the graph it's relatively it's clear enough, I would say. And all the sections that Ms. Stylianou referred to before, they can be allocated in this screen of yours. We will need to do adjustments with the font sizes, obviously, so it is readable through a screen. And this you need to have it in mind. Please keep a font size 18 for your title, 14 for the subtitle, and the size 8 for the main body of the text. Of course, do not forget to include images, so it make it more eye-catching and more interesting and engaging. And always keep in mind that it has to be on point, whatever image and text you use. We're going to have small quizzes. We're going to have our first quiz. You can see that in the Q&A section, you must receive the link that you should follow. Or you can scan the link using the QR code application. So we will give you a minute in order to vote for this. I will be showing you the results of this. Before that, I will explain you what is this image about. You can see a slide here from an oral presentation that is created. And we are asking about whether you find this a correct format for an oral presentation, whether the slide is fine as it is. And please write in the Q&A section why you think this is a correct format or it is not a correct format. And we're going to be seeing together the results. At the moment, we can see we have already 3 no's. So please keep voting. I hope you can see in the answers in the section of the Q&A the link here. So you can follow this one, please, and start voting. 6 people, let's see. I think we are more in this webinar. Let's wait 7. So let's see, let's see a few answers. Why do you think one says it's too wordy? But I would like to see the reason you think that this is not, or this is a correct format, not the answer. Please vote in the link that is provided here in the Q&A section. Not the correct format, too much info. Fair enough. All right, let's go back to presentation.
I think a few more answers are coming in.
Let's see. It's not an eye-catching. Format is not clear enough. All right, well, let's move on to our second quiz. So you're gonna receive again in the Q&A section the link for our second quiz. Please follow the link, or you can always scan the QR code on the screen with your application. All right, so it's the wrong one. All right. As we can see here, this is a poster presentation that we mentioned before, and we are asking again whether you find this a correct format or not. Please start voting, and also again write in the Q&A section why do you think this is a correct format or it is not. At the moment, we have just one yes and two no's. Right? We can see the majority says that this is not the correct format. All right. Let's read also a few answers here. Not quite clear. Overcrowded. Let's see votes, what say. Still, majority says no. It seems visually overwhelming, too crowded. All right. All right, let's go back to the presentation. I give the floor to Ms. Stylianou.
Thank you, Dr. Praja. So once you have presented, what usually follows the presentation is, of course, the question and answer session. We have some tips and some suggestions on what you can follow when it comes to the Q&A session. The first thing that we can suggest for you is to be precise when answering your questions. In other words, you need to answer what you're asked, and you need to not elaborate excessively. Keep in mind that in some instances, like the Q&A session, less is more. You don't want to mention, let's say, terminology or some words that may create questions that you don't want to answer. So just answer what you're asked. Also, you need to, of course, answer your questions with confidence, but you don't want to sound arrogant. If you have a well-rounded understanding and knowledge of your presentation, then you will be confident enough to answer the questions that you are asked. Also, avoid long pauses. And lastly, and most importantly, keep in mind that the Q&A session is an opportunity for you to get feedback. It's an opportunity for you to better understand, let's say, your research, to maybe find out things you didn't think about your research that you can successfully incorporate in your research and enhance the research. And do not take in any way any of the questions or the feedback personally. This is a great opportunity for you. Take advantage of it with confidence, and we're sure you're gonna succeed. I give the floor back to Dr. Praja.
So we continue with some guidelines and tool on how to format a conference presentation. So we're going to have our small third quiz, as I would like to know the presentation tools that you're familiar with. So at the Q&A section, you're going to you are provided with a link. So please follow that link so you can vote. And let us know what are the presentation tools that you are familiar with. In this tool, in this poll, you're gonna have to write your answer and type the tools that you're familiar with. We have started to have some answers here. What else? Okay, they have replied on the Q&A section. If you could just follow the link that is provided with the title quiz 3. All right, let's see. Poster, mural, PowerPoint, PDF. PowerPoint again. Google Doc. Videos. use of posters, Word document, motion graphics, PowerPoint again, I think. All right. Okay. Let's go back to the presentation. As some of you mentioned, one of the most popular tools with which you can build your presentation for a conference is Microsoft PowerPoint. And you can find more information about it on the microsoft.com, and the link is provided on the Q&A section again. So PowerPoint, it's very easy to use, apologies. And it helps you actually with an easy way. It guides you on how to build a presentation. Tools can be found very easily, and you start with a new slide. Most of you, I guess, you're familiar with the Microsoft PowerPoint, and there are many more that are similar to it. What is great about this application or tool is that you can incorporate in your presentation images and graphs, even links and videos, and you even can create the graphs and the charts in the application. And also, what is one of the greatest, let's say, aspects of it is that you can make your slides more animated, even your text or the graphs. Another tool is called Padlet, which is mainly a platform that you can build in order to create more interesting visualizations. And this can not just be used only for images that you want to present, but even for a concept that you want to explain, and it might be overcomplicated. I'm going to show you an example. Here, we can see someone that is trying to explain the process of observations, a method of in qualitative research. And there are some steps in this process that is trying to explain using these images. And this could also be accompanied with links as well as videos. And it has a form of a post, such as you can find in social media post. And it's interesting because you can use and build it in different shapes and formats. Another example is that of timeline. Let's say you need to refer to a series of events of a process. Let's say you're presenting about your research and about your methodology, and you want to say to explain a few processes that took place already. So you can build again the same procedure, including dates, for example. All this could be just a procedure and a breakdown of a very complicated concept. It could again incorporate images, links, and videos. And the tool that we have used in order to create our small polls today and quizzes is called Mentimeter. Again, you will find the link for more information in the Q&A section. And as you can see, we have used today the polling tool where you could all vote about the question. We have used Word Cloud where you were able to write in words and see all your answers popping up, and which can make your presentation more engaging and more interactive. You can attract the interest of your audience from the beginning just for making a small quiz. And now we are going to summarize some facts that we have already discussed. Although we have mentioned some tools, just make sure that you use a simple one that offers versatility and flexibility. Make sure that the content of the presentation is always well structured and it is informative without unnecessary details, but focus on the main point of your presentation and the argument you want to pass to your audience. In terms of the design and format tip, keep it clean and simple, as we said, and balance between the text and the images, and try to make it interesting and eye-catching with a consistent way of formatting and styling your presentation. Do not overcrowd the presentation so the audience, so that the reader cannot understand where to focus. This will make your presentation more engaging, and also keeping a coherent content. It will allow you not to lose any of your audience. And as we already mentioned, be precise and utilize the feedback that you have collected during the Q&A session. It is always valuable for even for the whole research. An idea that you might haven't thought about might arise through this session. And now I give the floor to Ms. Stylianou.
Thank you, Dr. Paja. So for our last section for today, we're going to go into some practical tips when it comes to your presentations. Since, as we said, the main focus of the webinar is online presenting, some more technical aspects regarding the presentation. When it comes to your tools, you want to ensure that first of all you have the tools. So you need to make sure you have your camera, your microphone, and that they are functioning. So you need to test them. You need to make sure that you are visible to your audience. So what we usually suggest is avoid having a window or any source of light behind you. Find a quiet place to present, and because during your presentation, it's going to help you focus, it's going to help your audience focus and follow you. And of course, the main component of the online presentation, make sure you have a stable network connection so you don't face any unwanted technical difficulties. Also, something very important when it comes to presenting is rehearsing on your own, practicing your presentation. You want to make sure that you time yourself. You do not want to talk too fast. You do not want to talk too slow. You want to stay within your time limit. So you need to practice, time yourself, and we suggest a rule of thumb, which is 1 minute per slide. For example, you have, let's say, a presentation of 15 minutes, 15 slides. 1 minute per slide. Also, you need to think ahead. You need to think, what could my audience ask me? Some more, let's say, general questions usually are, what is your research about? What did you do? What did you find? Why does that matter? Take this into consideration. As mentioned before, have a well-rounded knowledge of what you're going to present in order to think or guess what the questions might be. So you practice answering them and you go to your presentation prepared. Lastly, from my side, we wanted to mention some information regarding UCRAC 2022. For you guys who are not familiar with UCRAC, UCRAC is the UNICAF Graduate Conference. It's held annually. All students are invited to attend. Students who are enrolled in the dissertation stages are invited to present their work. What we wanted to mention is that the rehearsal is mandatory for good reasons, of course. We want to test the technical aspects. The rehearsal has more of a technical character. We're gonna check that you are able to share your screen, that your camera and microphone are functioning correctly. What you need to do is to try to keep the same environment and the same equipment as the day of the presentation. So let's say if you're gonna attend the UCRAC rehearsal, try to find the place and the environment you are planning to use during the actual presentation, the same tools, the same equipment, and of course the same network, So you rehearse with them, you make sure that everything is working, so everything goes smoothly for you during the presentation. Thank you very much again for attending today. I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Pasha for a final statement.
Thank you, Ms. Stylianou. Thank you all for participating and for contributing to making this webinar more interactive. Here is our contact information. Please do not hesitate to communicate for any related queries. And of course, I couldn't take the advantage in order to mention that we strongly encourage our doctoral students to submit abstracts in order to get themselves familiarized with presenting into academic events or research-related events. Because if accepted, they can potentially become opportunities for getting yourself familiarized also with academic writing publications, academic publications. And finally, we are sharing with you a post-participation form because we would like to keep record of your research development. And please fill it in as soon as you have attended a research related event. This could be even a workshop, it could be a webinar and a conference, as we already mentioned. And now we are ready to accept questions and comments. And for this, I'm inviting Dr. Papadopoulou to lead the session.
Thank you, Eleni and Eleni, to Elena today. So I would like to see if you have any questions, any of the attendees, if they have any questions, please post them under the Q&A section. Okay, so that the presenters can provide answers to some of the questions. I've seen earlier on that some of you have been requesting for the link or for the presentation to be shared. I should say at this point that indeed the presentation will be shared, and we will provide the link of the whole webinar. Okay. So you will be able to see it, okay, at any given time. And let's go back to some of the questions because I see some comments coming in. All right, so at what stage of the program does one participate in the conference? I think Eleni Stylianou has mentioned this. So Eleni Stylianou, would you like to repeat, please?
Yes, so but I guess we're talking about the UGRAC conference. All of the
students, I suppose so, yes.
Yes, even if you are at the total modules or enrolled at the dissertation stages, all students are invited to attend. The students who are enrolled in the dissertation stages are also invited to present. So, yes. I hope that answers the question. If you want further clarifications, of course.
Thank you, Eleni. Thank you very much. What's the next one? What happens if one is presenting and, say, for example, misses connection? So, Eleni Stylianou, would you like to take this?
What happens if one is presenting and, say, for example, misses connection? Well, this is, first of all, exactly the reason why we suggest the rehearsal for, let's say, the UGRAC presentation. Test your network connectivity regularly so you know if it's consistently stable. So you avoid the technical difficulties of losing connection. Let's say you're in an online presentation and you miss connection and there is no way for you to get back, you should communicate with the relevant people regarding the presentation. But let's say you want to avoid that. You don't want to miss connection when you are presenting online. So what you should do is make sure beforehand that this does not happen. You test your connectivity. If they offer rehearsal for the presentation, you attend the rehearsals, so you avoid that.
Okay, and let's see another one. Okay, it says, thank you for this information, for this informative presentation. You mentioned that for PowerPoint presentation, we use 1 slide per minute. This is okay, but while discussing, one may find themselves taking more than 1 minute due to maybe giving examples not on the PowerPoint presentation. Would this be okay? So, Eleni Styliani, I suppose we're back with you.
Yes, so as I said, this is a rule of thumb. This is what we're suggesting, 1 minute per slide. Keep in mind that you're gonna have slides that do not require the 1 minute. So let's say your cover slide may not need the whole minute, or your table of contents if you're gonna go through it. But what I would suggest is, again, to time yourself. I understand that you may want to elaborate on things in specific slides, but keep in mind that if you don't time yourself, so you make sure that you are within the time limit, you will be interrupted. So organize your examples and organize your slides accordingly. If you know that some slides are going to require some more time, pinpoint those slides and organize your presentation around them. You don't want to go through some of the slides too fast. And also one, let's say, of the most common mistakes that we see is that people tend to spend most of the time on the introductory part, let's say. Whereas if they have the findings and the conclusions at the end, which are one of the most important aspects of the presentation, they miss the chance to focus there where they have the examples and everything else. So you need to see your presentation, you need to organize your presentation, pinpoint the slides that may require some more time, and organize accordingly.
Thank you for this, Eleni. Just going back a bit to the electricity connection, just to say and to add basically on what Eleni has said, as I see quite a few of you are still commenting on this, that especially someone is asking whether they will be allowed to present again at another time should something like this happen. Just to say that it depends. And when we say it depends really on the actual conference, let's say, that you're presenting at, or if it is like a Viva or let's say a pre-Viva presentation, right, where you have to present something, okay? So in all of these cases, of course, we do understand that there are things beyond, right, your control, all right? So the point is to ensure that whatever can be done on your end is definitely checked for. Now, whether the country has, you know, a blackout or the electricity is unstable and so on, is not something that you can control. Therefore, we will definitely understand, and the same, of course, will apply for other organizations where you're presenting at. Once you make them aware of this possibility, then you know, it's okay, right? They will be able to understand. Okay. Now, moving on to a couple of other questions. I see here one that it is a bit more technical, so I suppose maybe Dr. Eleni Pasha will be able to assist with this, where a student asks, how do you ensure you do not sound too loud or too low, and not also strain your voice? So you want to be able to be heard, I guess, vivid and appropriate. So are there any tips, Dr. Pasha, on how to do this?
Mm-hmm. As we already mentioned, it's important that you attend the rehearsal. Always rehearse with yourself, and you can always record in order to understand that the level of your voice, it is the level that through through your own ears sounds, and while you're recording it sounds okay, and you don't push a lot of effort. Usually, you shouldn't put a lot of effort, and I would recommend that you speak at the level where when you read in a slower pace, usually you have the chance that you speak clearly, so you control also your volume. You have the time and the chance and to understand the volume that you're speaking with. but it is important, and I would suggest to record in order to understand. And also, if it is about an online presentation and you wear headsets, you can hear very differently. So at the moment, if I remove this headset, I hear differently, and sometimes you may feel that others do not listen to you, and you want to raise your voice, but sometimes it might not need to. So just record yourself and see whether you speak too loud or not. And it's always good to practice in front of your friends or your family, so they know whether you're speaking too fast. Usually when you speak too fast, you tend to increase your voice. Whereas if you take your time, you will also be able to read in an appropriate volume.
Indeed. Thank you very much. And something else for you, Dr. Pasha. Someone is asked whether they can get the link to other conferences as well, I suppose, other than UGRAC. So is there a way for them to do so?
Yes, we should. This is a good opportunity to let you know that the research office disseminates every 2 months a newsletter through which you can get opportunities for you to present, submit your abstracts. So just stay tuned, and I guess you will receive the next one. If you have not received the previous one, just bear with us and you will get the next one.
Okay, and another one for you, I guess. Are there any guidelines on virtual backgrounds during presentation? So any tips that you would like to share?
Yes, usually it's suggested that you do not use very busy ones that have shapes. For example, if you use the background I have behind me, for each slide, you will not achieve attracting the, let's say, focus on the right aspect of it. The text will look too busy and the reader will not be able to know where to focus. So it's good, as you already showed in our presentation, keep it simple with just a white background and add shape, so you are able to use shapes in order to highlight some words. Because if you have a busy background and then you also use some shapes or video or links within and images and charts, this will make it too busy. And always have a concept. It will be good if you have a concept, as we said, a consistency. So if you have used, for example, a color for just to highlight your title, then do it for all the slides that you have titles. Do not change colors and make it a rainbow in the presentation. It will not help to focus where the attendees need to focus.
It would be good once we share the link, right, of the webinar with you to also look at the actual presentation and how things are presented. Because what Dr. Pasha has said is really evident through the actual presentation, right? You see consistency, as we have said. So it's very important to do that. Okay, and another question, whether it is advisable for people to connect from multiple devices just to ensure connectivity related problems, let's say. So Dr. Pasha, any comments on that?
You can always sign in through different, let's say, devices, and just you need to make sure that you turn off from one of the devices the voice and the speakers, because that will mean if it is a presentation and it is live, it is probably going to create an interrogation and interference, and others will hear from the second device as well. So make sure the reason why you would like to sign it through a different device. If it is just for you to be able to see the attendees at the same time while you're presenting and sharing your screen, for example, yes, I will advise that. But if it's just a connectivity, just see which one of the devices can connect better and just remain with this one. And also, I said before, just make sure you you don't create interference. This is important. Sometimes we do not. We are not aware of this, and and always the host needs to mute yourself. But yeah, not just we say.
Sure, indeed. Okay, there's a couple of questions. There are a couple of questions related to the graduate conference. I'll try to answer those. Please feel free to ask any further questions if you have, of course, right, and the Q&A section. So one person asks whether the presentation is mandatory at the UNICEF graduate conference. Well, it is not mandatory, but it is highly recommended. Okay, as it would definitely be a good trial, right, for you to present your own work in a friendly environment. And it is always a test, let's say a good test before going either to the mock presentation, the mock Viva presentation, right, or the actual Viva in the very end. The more you present your work, right, and the more experience you get presenting it, it's better. You feel more confident. You know the limits. You know the what things, let's say, not to mention, and so on. So there are a few techniques and several skills that you need to build up, and that can only be done once you're able, right, to present your own work. Okay. Of course, another person asks whether there would be flexibility with respect to the schedule. There is, especially as far as, of course, UGRAC is concerned. We do make a provisional timetable, which we communicate with all presenters, and we ask them to confirm, their availability, right, at the time. So if for whatever reason you will not be able to, let's say, present during a morning session and you would prefer one in the afternoon, you can definitely inform us and we will make relevant amendments. So also students that have presented in last year's conference can definitely present this year as well, if they want to, right? Since we've said this is a practice area, but considering that they've presented last year as well, priority will be given to those who are presenting for the first time. This, though, does not mean that we will exclude anybody who has presented last year, okay? Just because we want to give the floor to as many of you as possible, as many times, right, as possible throughout your doctoral studies, okay? And also, a question relates to registration, I suppose, whether they ask whether they have to pay any money to take part in the UGRAC. No, of course, it is free. It is offered from the university. Okay, you don't have to pay anything. You just have to submit your abstract and, of course, at the very end, present. Okay, and another question, okay, that I think, okay, that again relates to myself, is whether in the event that one is presenting for Viva and with a limitation of time available, what key areas are of interest to present on? I should say that once you enter the final module, which is basically the doctoral dissertation examination, you will see there very detailed guidelines as well as a template, okay, for the presentation that you can present at the Viva. And also we do offer the mock presentation, okay, the pre-Viva, as we call it, presentation, so that you can test the material with people from the school rather than the actual examination committee. So without the external and the external examiner. So there you will get as much feedback as possible, okay, from the whole team on any aspect, okay, of the presentation content, presentation-wise, presentation skills, ability to answer questions and so on. So we will provide feedback on everything, okay? And another question that I believe Dr. Pasha can help us with relates to whether publication is mandatory after or before defending the doctoral thesis. So what would be your suggestion towards this?
Of course, I mean, it is not mandatory, but of course, it will develop your skills as a researcher, and we encourage our students to do so, and to do so, I mean, before defending the doctoral thesis. Usually, the examiners, you have an advantage if you already have publications before submitting your thesis, because it shows that your research has started already to be disseminated, and that you already developed academic writing skills and have understanding of what it is to conduct research. And yes, so I would strongly recommend it.
Okay, thank you for that. I do, of course, also suggest that you do try to publish as much as possible beforehand, as it's definitely, very good practice. And just to say, I've been informed now from members of the UBRAC organizing committee that the deadline for the abstract was actually yesterday, but because we have this event today, they would be willing to transfer the deadline to Monday. So anybody else who wants to submit their abstract, they have a final chance to do so until October 25th. Okay. So another question, if I'm interested to pursue an academic career after my PhD, does UNICAP University or other affiliates of UNICAP provide such opportunities? I suppose you're asking for employment. If this is the case, then definitely yes. And if you are interested, you can contact the school, right, with this interest, and we can then provide, we will forward your request really to the faculty recruitment, which is the department responsible for employment, right, and they will inform you of any further steps. Okay, and how another student is asking how they can actually send their abstract. So let me wait please for a minute, and we will provide the link, okay, to the actual submission, okay, the submission form online. So my colleague Olga, can you please provide us with the link if it's possible, so we can proceed with that. Okay, so in the meantime, are there any other questions that you would like to share with us? Please feel free to do so. So our colleague Olga has just shared the Google form with you, and I am sharing it back with you all at this point. So you can click on the link and it will take you to a Google form. Please feel free to complete the form, okay, so that you can attend so that you can present, at the conference. And at a later point, we will distribute a form for the registration as attendees as well. Okay. All right. And of course, the final question of whether the presentation will be shared. Yes, once again, it will be shared with everybody. We will provide the link at the very end. Okay, so my fellow colleagues, our presenters, Dr. Faja and Ms. Iliano, is there anything on your end before we complete the session? Is there something you would like to add?
From my part, I'm fine. Thank you all for coming to this webinar. And we're waiting for you to see your interesting presentations at UCRA conference and to many more.
Thank you from me as well, guys. Thank you for joining us today. Best of luck with your presentations. And of course, we're looking forward to see your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you all on my end as well for attending. And as we've said, we will share the link with everybody within the next few weeks. Of course, if you feel If there's anything else that you would like to ask, right, at any given point, you can either contact the School of Doctoral Studies, or if it's something that's specifically related to research, you can contact, of course, the research office. Okay, thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon.